Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature successful business leaders, authors, top law firms, green energy companies, and more. I hope you're ready for another great episode in our IT Manager series, because today we're joined by the IT Manager of St. Vincent de Paul of Baltimore, Jason Ledney. Jason, welcome to the show.
Great to have you.
All right. Well, before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyber, lynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where CyberLink's intrusion detection comes in. With our 24/7 Security Operations Center, we use a combination of AI and cybersecurity technicians to see when a hacker has successfully bypassed your security. So if a bad guy gets in, we'll find out right away and be able to kick them out. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyber, lynx.com. And now back to our show. Jason, so excited to have you on. I was not familiar with St. Vincent de Paul of Baltimore, but talk about incredible work. For those who also aren't familiar, can you tell people about what you guys are doing there?
We do multiple things. So, I'll start with we do Head Start and early Head Start for the poor and underprivileged and impoverished of the city. And that's free of charge. All they have to do is apply and go through the process. It meals included. So outside of Head Start and early Head Start, which is about 55% of our organization, we do homeless services, and that includes day shelters at our Beans and Bread location. We have 2 shelters out in the county, Reisterstown and Reisterstown and Pikesville. And then we also do veterans fairs. We have our own food preparation facility called Good Harvest, which feeds our shelters and our Head Start and our early Head Start, as well as other places in the city and the county. So, and then on top of that, we do veteran services too. So we have an SSVF, so supporting our vets in the Baltimore City area.
That's incredible. I mean, and it's not a small operation. You guys have, what is it, like 150 or so employees, something like that? Is it
250 and growing?
That's incredible. I mean, even for a for-profit organization, that's fantastic. You're doing great work. How, and I know it's not like you're the founder and CEO, but, I'm going to ask you some, potentially hard questions, but maybe softball questions. I mean, that's impressive for a nonprofit, especially just in one city. I mean, what has been the key to success there?
The key to success for us has just been we're always growing and evolving. All businesses suffer through the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, the building I'm sitting in, we had a kitchen here that would teach people how to prepare meals at home. We did job training here. So as times have changed, we have changed. And we've had to, because we're grant based. So whatever the whims of the grantors are, we're I hate to say chasing money, but we're not necessarily chasing money, but right. It's trying to serve those that are in need in Baltimore City and County. So through the pandemic, a lot of that was shelter services. Post-pandemic, it is mental health. So we are getting into mental health as one of our next verticals and push, which brings a whole bunch of other policies and cyber issues, and that just as the business model changes, the IT structure behind it's changing too. So.
Yeah, well, let's get into that, because I mean, we have a lot of companies on, and we work with a lot of companies that are in various industries, and so it's really interesting to see kind of the difference of how IT and cyber are in different industries, and how and the similarities. So I mean, for you guys, that it seems like an interesting challenge when it comes to both IT and cyber, in that you've got shelters, you got that the Head Start stuff. So it's not like it's just some corporate environment where you're just dealing with office
Yeah.
workers. You're dealing with all kinds of issues.
Yeah. We, we offer our, services to anybody that walks through our door, so to speak, that's qualified. And so, like you said, it's not just a corporate environment. We do have, administrative offices, which are, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type businesses, but our shelters operate 24/7, 365. So those have their own unique challenges. Our clients have to be able to, have access to the internet as well too. It's not like I could just shut it off to them. So each of these sites that we have, and it doesn't matter if it's Head Start, early Head Start administrative office, it's literally, each site is its own business,
Yeah.
and it has to kind of be treated as such. So.
Yeah. In a way, you're kind of like your own MSP, right? I mean, you've got several different client companies that you're providing all their IT for, and each one completely different.
Yeah, and that's generally the mindset I take. I have a small internal team, and so I always have to look at things as time and money, so to speak. What is the best use of my time? What is the best use of my right hand person? What's the best use of my left hand person? And how can we be most effective? Because, I'm worth X, he's worth Y, he's worth Z. And is it worth X, Y, and Z, or just X and Y, or Z? Like what are the variables? Do I outsource this? Do I hire someone else, or do I just go replace it? It's kind of one of those things, and some of it's just based upon, the almighty dollar, the budget. Because we're in a grant-based backing industry, I can't go make more money. I have a budget, and that's the budget. Like, if I overspend, where's that money coming from?
Right.
Yes, we do have an advancement team that goes out and tries to, works on donations and foundation grants and other things like that, estate planning, but that's not everything. That's a portion of our budget. So.
Yeah. It's funny. So we just had a discussion earlier about how a tabletop exercise is such a great way to kind of help people help kind of the rest of the C-suite and decision makers understand the importance of security, because all too often when you're talking about a fixed budget, it's a matter of, well, how do I, like, the pot is only so big, and it's got to cover all these things. And it's so easy for security to be way down on the list, especially with cybersecurity. So I'm kind of curious from your perspective, how does that's got to be what happens for you, or is it not? Is everybody like, well, you know what, we can't wake up one day and find the computers all ransomed and all of our I guess I don't know if you call them clients or customer data out there on the web. So how do you balance that? And how's that work with you guys?
It's tough, because, as you said, and I already and I alluded to earlier, it's here's our budget, this is what we got, make the most of it, and with any nonprofit, it's always a struggle to get people to understand data security, and the CIA triangle: confidential, integrity, and accessibility. Like they want their data, they want it all the time, they want to be able to get it wherever they're at, but it's like there's risks associated with that. And then especially as our business models have changed, when we're talking about mental health, so we're talking about psychological services now. So that's HIPAA, that's PCI compliance. With our Head Start and early Head Start, that's FERPA compliance. So generally, couple things I have to do. One, I have to look at, the organization as a whole body and go, what is the strictest compliance? Because then I can, with generally a broad pen, go, okay, if we're all compliant on this level, may it be HIPAA, may it be FERPA, whatever, whatever it is at that moment, then we're compliant across the organization. But those things have a cost. and it's not just a financial cost. There's a time, effort, and everything else associated with costs. Leadership generally, for any nonprofit, tries, they always, it's IT is often looked as a cost center because I don't make anything. I spend money. That's what I do. I spend money. Like we need this service. Oh, you want to do this? This costs money. Oh, we got to run this cable. This costs money. Oh, we need a new access point. This costs money. You need a new laptop. That costs money. We need to repair a laptop. Oh, that costs money. Everything I do costs money. And so therefore, getting people out of the mindset of like, that's great that you want to do telemed or bring up this foundation or bring up this, do this event. But having them understand, like, there are inherent risks to all these things. And that's always been the challenge. And especially with the business model of nonprofits, it generally takes twice as long to get anything in place. So if you think it's going to take 6 months, it's going to take a year. If you think it's going to take a year, it's going to take 2 years. Just because getting all the stakeholders to go, yes, we need to do that. So a lot of my time and energy has been spent educating my colleagues, and not just the C-suite, but all colleagues around me, like the importance of good IT hygiene, and just start with that.
I mean, that's a real challenge, I think, all the way, across the board for everybody, is kind of getting that basic IT hygiene or in cyber hygiene kind of down. And I think it's become a lot more difficult now thanks to AI. So the bad guys now, it's no longer broken English, it's perfect English, and it's like, well, it was easy to fall for that email, and now the email not only is written in perfect English, but the bad guys just rented the service to be able to when you click on it, it steals your Microsoft token, and you didn't even have to log in, and now they've got the token to log into your account, or you logged in and you gave them with MFA, you instantly log them in with MFA, and now the bad guys are in. And so it's really challenging, I think, today to kind of communicate that, because that is a new thing that most people, if they're not you and me and they're not in the industry, they don't realize that, oh, the bad guys, like, oh, I didn't log in. You didn't have to. You simply clicked on the link. Well, you know what? I get so many emails. You got to click. Well, you can't fault somebody for clicking on an email that looked 100% legit, came from, somebody they work with on a regular basis. And it's like, okay, so there's got to be these extra layers in place. And as you were saying, that's it's a challenge on both sides of it, on the user side and on the IT management side, to say, hey, we need budget. We need to, put these things in place so we do know when something happens.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've been trying to do is not have this big separation between cyber and IT. It just boils down to trying to get people to understand that cyber is IT and IT is cyber, and that there's that this flux of behavior, it doesn't matter if you're here at work or you're at home. Every onboarding session, we talk about our policies, and don't do this and don't do that. And this is how we're going to test you, and this is how we're going to train you. And I always give them an example. And usually I talk about QR codes and the risk of QR codes and parking meters. Yep. And 9 times out of 10, you see their eyes go, oh no. I'm like, yes, like that's how bad this is. Like, and it doesn't stop at the end of the workday. Like, and who, at this point you have to kind of think, like, who do you put your work email on your personal cell phone? Do you not? Like, am I going to pay? How am I paying for parking? Am I going to, like, and then, with all this technology, it's like, okay, QR codes are great, but okay, now that's a risk. Oh, we can't use Apple Pay or Google Pay now because that's a risk. Oh, the banks, no one takes cash anymore. So it's just like, how do we combat all these things? So,
Yeah. No, and I think I love the QR code one because I think that's a big eye opener for the average user, if you will, right? That it's like, well, I thought that was fine. I was in my Park Mobile app and I just thought it was, it would be totally fine to, or I just, and those QR codes there's some nasty stuff out there and they get people all the time.
yeah.
Yep.
I literally show them like, hey, I can create a QR code right now.
Yep.
And I could copy the HTML for this website, and all I have to do is change a couple of these things, and you won't even know it. They're just like, can you do this? Like, yeah, I
Anyone
can.
can.
It's like, and I said, I'm just one guy,
It's
you
right.
know, that, it has a level of morals and standards that won't do these things. But if that's your business, if that's how how you're attacking the world, so to speak, it's really easy. All you have to do is find the website and copy it. It's and getting people, employees, clients, whatever, to understand like that's just one aspect of it, and voice cloning, that's a whole nother level,
Yeah.
that one scares the heck out of me. So
Yeah. I mean, well, between the voice and the video, I mean, we are right on the cusp of having a real issue when it comes to kind of verifying if that is a real person or if that person is indeed who they appear to be and sound to be. I mean,
yeah,
it is wild stuff. I think there's a great business model going to be, or a great business potentially on being able to kind of verify how that works. I don't know, but somebody's going to figure out a way of doing that that's going to slow that down, and that's going to be an ongoing going battle. But I think data and identity verification is going to be a huge challenge in the future.
yeah, it's I was reading an article that was about a home closing, and they wanted to sell this piece of property, and it was an AI video, and the closing house figured it out just because this person wasn't answering the questions specifically the
Right.
way they were asking them. Like, hey, can you say this? Can you do this? Can you wave your left arm? And it's just like, yeah, so that, but what happens when they get to that point?
That's right. Yep. We're not that far off. It's
No.
and that's the really scary part. I mean, that, like you said, scary stuff. How you defend against that, I don't know. But it'll be an interesting time. Now, you talk about how the organization is kind of broken up into other companies. You've had a really interesting background in that you've worked on the MSP side, so you've been on both sides of this, and I think it's fun because I don't think we've had any two people that have had the same kind of career trajectory in IT, which I think is really interesting. But I love your kind of MSP experience and vice, kind of, and what would you call the non, I guess, channel and non-channel
Yeah.
service they'd say in the MSP space. So for those kind of following a similar path, can you talk about that and the kind of the advantages and disadvantages, if there are any
The
disadvantages?
I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to both. When my first IT job, I was a staffing solution for an MSP. So that's how I got into it. And so I learned the MSP model while being a staffing solution, 100% dedicated resource on site. So I got to see behind the scenes and how an MSP works or should work with a staffing solution. And that grew and evolved. And then eventually I left that MSP to be brought on permanently on site, so out of channel, but still had that relationship with that MSP. But that I was 100% client at that point.
Yeah.
And then when it was time to leave that site, that company, I went to go work for another MSP, and then got into the more technical side. It didn't really do the help desk work per se, because I already had outgrown that,
Right.
but I didn't have to sit there and answer, have you tried restarting it yet? Yeah, you type tickets yet. But, got into technical, the more technical side, technical engineer, and then got into account management as well too. And some of this has just been my path has kind of been luck of the draw to a certain extent. I started the second MSP that I worked for was a smaller MSP that was growing. I mean, the reality is the start date was 1/1/2020. So it's like, so yay, pandemic. So, we learned a lot. It was three of us that started that, that started in that company, the CEO, owner, and then another gentleman and I, and we were it. And we had, we took over a book of work from the first MSP I worked for because the account manager slash CEO brought his book over. So we had 15 customers to start our business, right off the bat. And so we had to, learn all aspects of it. And then just through evolution and through time, it's like, okay, well, oh, Jason, you could talk to people. Yes, I could talk. Okay. Okay. Well, that's good because now you can explain our services. I'm like, okay, so what am I doing? I'm in
With
sales now.
sales?
Okay. I'm in sales now. And it's always been just the adaptability of it. I didn't get into IT as a first career. I was a music teacher first. Like I went to school to be a music teacher. That, excuse me, that diploma right there is my music ed degree. That's my IT degree.
That's great.
And it's one of those things that it's just, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Literally, just and it's been one of those things that it, just keep on growing and keep on going. It's and I tell people this all the time. It's like, yeah, great. You want to go to college for that? That's great. Okay, what job do you want to do? What's the job? Okay, so you want to major in underwater basket weaving. Okay, what job does that get you? And does that get you to your goal of whatever you want in life and whatever that is? It's always different for everybody. But you look at those things and just go, okay, I was a music teacher. Didn't go too well. Enjoyed it. Didn't go too well. Wasn't the best music teacher. So what next? Where can I go next? And what can I do next? And it's like, oh, I'm pretty good with computers. Okay, let's go down that path. And here I am. So
That's great. Well, our daughter is a senior this year, and she's been really into opera for a long time, and she competes, at all these, competitions, does really well. She's, had her Carnegie Hall debut, and so she's done a lot of work. It's funny because when she first started singing, she liked singing, but she wasn't a good singer, and now she's a very good singer with all the practice. But she was at the Washington National Opera Institute, their summer program. And it's funny because they have this program where you meet, you work with professional opera, performers, and then they talk about their career and their day-to-day life. And she came home when I think this was last summer. She came back and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that for a career. They have it very hard. I like nice things. That's not the life for me. So she's applying to college and she wants to major in music still because she likes it, but she wants to go to law school and be a lawyer. So she's like, yeah, that's for me. I can't, that life it's tough, in music. I mean,
I was a gigging musician for a short period of time. So I chased that New York City music dream, and I have many amazing stories of places I've played and things I've seen, and stars that have had kicked out of places that for being backstage when they shouldn't be back there. And I've played the Kennedy Center. I've played a whole bunch of cool places in my life, but none of those ever paid the bills.
so IT it is. IT to the
Yes,
rescue as always, right?
yes.
That's awesome. Jason, this has been an absolute blast. I've really enjoyed it. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and more about St. Vincent de Paul of Baltimore?
So to learn more about St. Vincent de Paul of Baltimore, you can look us up at vincentbaltimore.org. Um, we're all over the place in the city and the county. And to learn more about me, I'm on LinkedIn. So Jason Ledney. So
That's fantastic. Well, thanks again for coming in and or coming on, and keep up the great work there.
thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.